all of that, and then we're all part of it. Most of us are living life in families, or at least in community, where we have brothers and sisters in Christ, and we want to show up. And so there's a lot of sensing and then a lot of thought in terms of how do we best meet those needs? What are the stories that we can tell that will remind people that, family is absolutely worth it. It's rarely perfect, and usually there's an improvement point or two that we can all bring to the table, whether it's just I'm married, or I'm thinking of getting married, or I just got married, or I've got kids, or I'm an empty nester. I mean, there's room for all of us to grow, and we're so glad that we can be a part of the fabric of life through the radio and through the resources.
But we also have you going out to our Facebook subscribers, our Instagram, and being able to have you with us. And if you're watching on that, you see that John's got some pictures behind him.
I do.
Are they family pictures? Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
So those pictures are, the black and white ones are pictures I took when I was a college student in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I went to a senior center and I grabbed some pictures of some of the residents, and they had stories to tell. I listened, and then I tried to capture kind of the heart of who that person is. Then I have pictures of children that I took in Peru. That one. I've got other pictures on the wall from Ecuador. We've done some trips as a family, or I did some trips as just solo, and got to meet some very interesting people and tried to capture their heart on film, if you will. Thanks for noticing those.
So is photography a hobby for you?
You know, it's something I thought would be a profession. And somewhere between college and adulting, I found out that it was going to require a lot more, Tim, than I thought it would take. And I fell into radio, and I enjoyed doing radio, and it just kind of is where I landed. So I started off pursuing photography as a profession, and found out that radio was actually something I could do probably a little more. Well, it wasn't more lucrative, Tim. I mean, Christian radio.
That's exactly right. Anybody that's worked in radio realizes that it's not a moneymaker. You
pay your dues, and it's ultimately much richer than going off and being a National Geographic photographer. So, radio's been good.
As we talk to you, and as we hear. Again. All right. As we realize how important the ministry of Focus on the Family is, when you are putting together these programs and you get to talk with so many people over the air, and then you start to get the feedback, the stories of how this impacts people, can you share some of that with us?
Oh, yeah. That's such a privilege. Again, we have the honor of coming alongside people and being in their rhythms and routines, or as so often happens, the Lord just moves on somebody to hear us through the radio. And we're so grateful for those opportunities to meet a need. We did a show recently on a hard topic. It's something we don't talk a lot about, but we broached the subject of domestic violence. And as we had a woman's story of dealing with that and how she was able to find healing apart from that terrible relationship she was in. As we talked about that, we heard from a woman who said, that captured my story so completely. She said, I've been in an abusive relationship for 34 years. And while it hasn't been physical, it's felt physical through the emotional manipulation and abuse. And she said, you just shined a light on something that's been a secret in my life. And I'm reaching out to you because I know I need help. And I want to step into the light with this now. So when we can enter into somebody's pain and we can give them perspective and a lifeline and hope and maybe a step or two toward healing, what a privilege. What a cool thing is that. And then, I mean, there are lots of lighter stories where people just say, Wow. I went home and I tried that marriage tip, and my wife threw her arms around me and said, "Thank you. I've been waiting for that for years." Or when I said this to my husband, it changed. Or when I realized that my conversation with my teen could go a different direction, and I tried this because I heard it on your show. Wow, it was a game changer. So those are moments that we're so grateful that God does through us and through our guests.
It is so amazing to be able to share that with our listeners, because we certainly, love to be able to do that. But it is a challenge for us, as well, as we don't always get the feedback that we would love to hear. And so when we get to share these stories with our listeners, I think it impacts them in a way that realizes that their giving during Share-A-Thon makes a difference. And so
Absolutely.
thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, because I think it's so important for our listeners to hear.
And I hope
Now,
that they're
as you
feeding
get
you
that
stories,
feedback,
Tim.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I hope that they're feeding you stories about what the station has done for them. I mean, I trust that they are, but
Mhm.
now's the time. Don't I liken it to going into a grocery store. You don't fill up the cart and then walk out without paying.
Mhm.
So you're walking around the store, you're seeing this, and you're benefiting from this word or that song or whatever it is, and there's your cart's getting some stuff in it. Why
Right.
don't you pay? Join the Share-A-Thon and make a contribution today. It'd be
I
great.
never thought about it that way, but I like it. Give us a call, 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. We try to keep our listeners up to date with things that are happening through Focus on the Family. I've actually had the privilege of interviewing quite a few of the Focus on the Family staff about the different things that are happening at Focus on the Family, as well as the resources, the materials that are available. Where can our listeners go if they need just a quick word from somebody of a situation that they're going through? There are resources that Focus on the Family has, aren't there?
Sure, sure. The starting point would be focusonthefamily.com, or give us a call, because when you call, we'll be able to connect you. We can tell you about resources, or we can connect you with a counselor. So our donor team makes it possible for us to have a counselor give you a call back, and they'll explore with you kind of what's going on. They'll listen to you. They'll ask some questions. They'll connect you with resources, and they can even talk to you about somebody in your own area for an ongoing counseling consultation or relationship. So the donor team makes it possible for us to offer that, and our counseling team takes about 2,000 calls a month.
Wow.
And the top topics are parenting adult kids, because they're either making bad choices, or sometimes because the values are so significantly different, my kids won't even let me talk to my grandkids. Addictions and dependencies, fractured relationships, just in general. Those are some of the top things that we get calls for. And whatever pain you're going through, we've probably been able to hear that from somebody else before. And boy, what a privilege it would be to talk to you. So 800-A-FAMILY is the number to call. And Tim, you're donating audience members to Focus, make it possible for us to have that kind of an impact.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't know about resources like this if they weren't listening to you. So again, thank you for being a part in that chain.
Well, we do love being a part of that, John. We appreciate the ministry of Focus on the Family, the work that is being done. We have small resources as a small station, but we're connected to people and places like Focus on the Family. And we air Focus on the Family twice a day here in the morning and in the evening, so that no matter what time of day it is that works for you to listen, you can be a participant in Focus on the Family. And we appreciate the work that you guys continue to do. The number to call to support Share-A-Thon this year here on WRGN, 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. John, can you give us an update on what's happening at Focus on the Family that our listeners can be praying for, even as we're in this Share-A-Thon time?
Sure. Well, we just released last month the film Truth Rising, which is a documentary that addresses how you and I can be lights for Christ in this culture that increasingly pushes off to the margin and says, "Hey, you're an oddball." And of course, we know what happened to with the whole Charlie Kirk shooting and the aftermath and the interest in faith. So I think there's some corrective aspects to our culture when people of faith stand up and say, we're not the weird ones. We've got truth and we're not ashamed of it. But nonetheless, that film, Truth Rising, just seemed perfectly timed to help equip understanding and grow understanding for believers about kind of where the mindset is generally of the culture and the world around us, and how we can step in and be people of conviction and people of faith who authentically relate Christ to the culture. So that film is something that kind of started a little movement, and we're very pleased about that. So pray with us for more people to do the 4-part study that we made available for that. It's all free. And then honestly, we're cooking up something really cool. And maybe the others that you've talked to from Focus have shared about Adventures in Odyssey, the feature film. But there's an animated Odyssey film coming out next year, and it's going to be awesome. I've seen a
You
trailer
heard it
clip.
first here on WRGN.
Okay.
We did not know about this, John. So
I wasn't supposed to
it's
tell anybody.
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to tell anybody. Sorry, my bad.
Oh,
No, it's really, really cool. And there's a whole generation of children growing up, and they're not reading anymore.
yeah.
And they're looking at screens, and we have this really neat opportunity where there's going to be a feature film and then a 13-part streaming series about kind of the origins of Odyssey. And it's done so very well. And,
as is everything that comes out of Focus on the Family.
well, that's one of the things that brought me to the ministry. Thank you, is the recognition that Focus does stuff pretty good. And there's a high bar. And I found that very appealing as a new employee. And I'm just, after all these years, I'm still thrilled at the quality of what happens. And Odyssey, of course, everybody loves Odyssey.
Yeah.
So pray with us for the timing of that, because, boy, when it comes out, what if there's some big Marvel, cinematic event happening and we get lost in the crowd? So pray for the timing of that and the completion of it. It's right now on time and under budget, and we're really happy about that.
Love that.
But there's an opportunity for us to really make a God-sized impact on the culture through this movie. And we're not good enough to figure that out on our own. We need divine wisdom on that.
Trust in the Lord for that one.
Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you sharing that with us, John, because so many of our listeners love Adventures in Odyssey. I know that my 24-year-old daughter, who now has 2 kids of her own, is going to be very interested in the Focus on the Family's Adventures in Odyssey movie, because she had the book with the whole history and everybody, all the characters and all that kind of stuff. So she is going to be very excited about that. So I'll be sharing that with her and letting her know that as well. And we'll share it with our listeners as well as it comes closer, because we want our listeners to be able to know what is available. The Truth Rising, we talked about that a lot as that was coming up, because we want to be able to understand the culture through the lens of truth, God's truth, not man's truth. So very excited about that.
Yeah.
John, before we let you go, I do want to come back, because you've alluded to twice your coming to Focus on the Family. And I do want to hear how you came to Focus on the Family. But I also want to give those phone numbers so our listeners know where to call. 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. We've had another faith promise come in, $480 from Sharon. Thank you so much, Sharon. Renewing support of WRGN. I listen to all the programming, she said. So thank you so much, Sharon. We really appreciate that. So, John, how did you come to Focus on the Family from your lucrative photography?
Oh, yes. So I worked at a little station in East Texas that I had the privilege of helping start up. And they're still on the air and doing far better since I left. But I was there, and my wife and I had one child and another one on the way when I heard Focus on the Family was relocating from California to Colorado. And I looked at her and I said, what if we went after this? And she was like, I love Colorado. And I said, I've never been. But I applied, and several months later, I was able to join the ministry just after they moved here from California. So that was back in 1991, and it was a 5-year commitment. I thought, well, I'll move my young family, and we'll try for 5 years. And Colorado's kind of grown on me, and the work we get to do, like I said, there's so much going on that just I find so much value in contributing to what we do. Let me just say real quick too, Tim, our listeners are here for marriage and parenting advice,
Mm-hmm.
but far and away the biggest programs we've had this year have to do with evangelism and discipleship. They have to do with living the faith well. And when our top programs are that, we take great heart in kind of the tone and timbre of the Christian body in the U.S. And we're grateful because it doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it doesn't happen just because of a 30-minute show.
Right.
We've got partners like you who are committed to truth and communicating that truth in a culturally relevant way and consistently showing the love and letting people hear the love of Christ through your microphones. So let me just say thank you for being so faithful, and thank you for being so committed to truth and to building up the body.
Well, we appreciate the time that you've spent with us today, John. I am so grateful for you being willing to come on with us and to encourage our listeners as well, because one of the things that we always hear from everybody that we talk to at Focus on the Family is the encouragement. I was talking with Danny Huerta a little bit ago about dealing with kids and dealing with the challenges that our teenagers face, and so appreciate the resources that are available for our listeners that span the ages, because they do, from the young folks that may start with Adventures in Odyssey, but then through the years as they grow their own families, and then even the aging process and looking on the other end of some of the challenges that we may face through the aging process. Some of the cultural things that we face as far as the transgender movement, the homosexual movement, and all those things are all very crucial for us to address in a God-honoring way.
Yeah, and it's incumbent on us to live out those truths in a way that is winsome and not. I mean, somebody might be called to be a prophet and to bring messages of doom, but I'm not one of them.
Right.
And to Jim's point, he said, I don't know too many people that heard a hellfire and brimstone, sermon and came to Christ. Generally, it's, when those Christians love well, it's pretty irresistible. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at, is we can engage the culture with love and with respect.
Yeah.
And we can take the high road knowing that the gospel of Christ is all powerful, and it doesn't need me to get in the way.
Right.
If I'll just step out of the way, the Holy Spirit can do a lot through his truth in my life.
Amen. We don't have to ignore those topics. In fact, we can encourage the conversation, but at the same time, we're addressing them in a way that honors God, that honors the Bible. I think, too, of the abortion issue and all the work that Focus on the Family has done there. Just marvelous work as we get to listen to programs and you encourage life. And that's just so important to us.
Yeah. Tim, thank you for that. I appreciate that, because the pro-life elements of Focus are strong. They don't take up most of our airtime.
Right.
We only come to those topics every now and then. But from speaking out for life and helping women know that they have a choice to choose life, and then honoring life, even the children who sometimes get caught in the crossfire and they pay the price of a broken marriage or of abuse or of a family that is so broken that they're orphaned. Speaking out about, as you said, the elderly, and honoring our senior citizens well. By the way, I am one of them now, so I'm feeling kind of badly about that.
Sometimes, doesn't it?
But I have a 20-year-old, 22-year-old, so I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But all of life is sacred, and when we live that out well and we respect the people in front of us, it's pretty hard to not listen to us when we talk about Jesus. We lead with love, and then we work the truth in as we can, but if you're not living love, it's really hard to kind of swallow the truth of the gospel sometimes.
It certainly can be. Well, we've got some great news from Phone Central. The calls continue to come in. I want to say a big thank you to Karen and giving an Insta-gift. Thank you so much, Karen. And that Insta-gift, a renewal of a faith promise, day sponsorship as well. Thank you so much, Karen. We appreciate that. Well, John, I want to thank you again for taking the time to be with us. A final challenge to our listeners.
If the shopping cart is full, just go ahead and finish the transaction and make a payment to WRGN.
Time to check out.
Seriously, 24/7. Here's truth. Here's encouragement for you. If you've never given, now would be a great time to hear from you and share your story of how you listen at 5:30 or at 8 p.m. or whatever time it is, even if it's just a 5-minute drive that turned into a 10-minute drive because I had to listen to the rest of the story.
Usually the end of Adventures in Odyssey, right?
Something like that. Yeah. So step up today. Let us hear from you, please. And thank you in advance for being generous.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate your time today. Lord bless you and the ministry at Focus on the Family. Tell Jim Daly we said hi.
We'll say hi, and truly, he does bless us. We're grateful. Thanks, Tim.
Amen. Well, that's John Fuller from Focus on the Family.